Yeah.
And now.
Okay. Do you, just one more quick question? 1 second. Do you see a full screen or do you see it cut off somewhere?
Full screen.
We see a full screen.
Okay, thank you. So this is just an introduction. I know we didn't have too much of muscular introduction. There was an introduction in last week's lab too, which you can go through it. I'll go more in detail in the lecture later. So muscles can be organized in, muscles are nothing but made up of myofibrils, which are like small fibers, and they can be arranged in different ways. They can be arranged in a circular way, in a convergent way, fusiform way, parallel way, or multi-pennate where we have multiple origins, bipennate where you have two, or unipennate. This is just telling you that muscles can be organized in different ways. Again, this is just an animation pictures. You will not be tested on this. Naming skeletal muscles. So how do we name the muscles? The way we name the muscles is based on the orientation. Rectus is known as straight, oblique is slanted, maximus means largest, longus means long, biceps, two origins. As I said, origin and insertion. Origin is the immovable part. Sorry. Origin is the movable part and insertion is immovable part. Triceps, three origins. Quadriceps, four origins. Again, this will help you if you understand the shape and where you are located. It will help you to name the muscles, just to an idea. Deltoid, a triangular. Flexor, that causes flexion, the way we move. Extensor, causing extension or adduction. Okay. So as I said, this is just a general introduction. Naming the muscles. If it is straight, it's called rectus. If it is big, it's called maximus. So rectus abdominis, these are muscles that help in flexing your abdomen and then runs in a straight directions. I'll talk more about maximus later. Location of the muscles. Many muscles are also named for the bone. The muscles that are present near the temporal bone is known as temporalis. Number of origins. Also, muscles are named based on the origins. If you have triceps, you have three origin and insertion. Okay. So when one is one that allows to move, one that does not allow to move. Okay. Example, triceps, it will have three heads. Okay. So which is 1, 2, and there's one behind it. Okay. Then also location, such as sterno, on the sternum, location of muscle, shape of the muscle, you can be trapezius, which is your back muscle, or deltoid, which is a triangular muscle. And then muscles are also named based on their function, flexor or extension. So it flexors, moves inward, or extensor moves outward. So flexor or extension, it depends on the names. Let me show you one thing here. Okay.
Professor?
Yes.
Are you recording this lecture by chance?
No, I am not recording it.
Okay, thank you.
So flexor is flexus or extend the bones. So flexor is basically moving, how do I say that? Moving outward. Extension is moving inward. So let's show here. And just again, these are not the images which should be used, but this will give a clear description how it looks like. So we have muscles throughout the body, facial muscles, neck muscles, thoracic muscles, head muscles, shoulder muscles, arm muscles. We are not going to go everything today. We're just going to few things today. Facial muscles, let's talk about facial and head muscles. Okay. Facial muscles, the front muscles are known as epicranius or frontal belly. That basically helps in moving your forehead. Orbicularis oculi, muscles present around your eye. It's moving. Zygomaticus, present underneath the cheek. Orbicularis oris, the lip muscles. Puckers your lip. Masseter are the parallel muscles near the cheek. Temporalis are the muscles present near the temporal bone. Okay. So that's for the head and the neck. Then when we go to shoulder, let's talk about the shoulder. This one that looks like a scarf is platysmia. Then you have a muscle here on both sides, which is sternocleidomastoid. Okay. The other things are next week, which is arms, thorax, and shoulder. I'm just going to go over facial, head, neck, and some of abdominal muscles today, which we'll talk about in a moment again. So abdominal muscles. So this portion, which is running straight, is rectus abdominis. Then we have internal oblique. Sorry. This one's where the muscles go in this direction are internal oblique. This one's the muscles that are going in, they basically go in an opposite direction. It's not actually repeated. This is external oblique. The one underneath that is known as transverse abdominis. Those are the only things which are mentioned that we should know for this week. Here, again, another picture. So epicranius. Epicranius will include the frontal belly, occipital belly, epicranial neurosis, the muscles of your head, temporalis, which is the muscles of your muscle that is next to temporal bone. Then you have masseter, which I forgot to mention, masseter, okay. Then sternocleidomastoid, okay. Sternocleidomastoid. Beneath the sternocleidomastoid, you have splenoskeptitis, and I will show it to you more in the models in a moment. Okay, so masseter, sternocleidomastoid, splenoskeptitis. Bassinator helps in mastication. Orbicularis oculi for your eyelids. Oris for the lips. Platysmia for the neck, helping in moving the neck and moving it around. Platysmia, sternocleidomastoid, and splenoskeptitis help in moving your necks. Okay, so again, this is a lateral view. Temporalis, masseter, oris, and bassinator. Bassinator runs underneath the masseter. So this is again telling you different things, sternocleidomastoid. The other things which are not circle, you don't have to know. So this is sternocleidomastoid. Yes, sternocleidomastoid, 2 layers. Beneath the sternocleidomastoid, you have splenoskeptitis. And this is just an introduction. Again, these are the muscles of neck and vertebral column that help in moving your head, and also they help moving in your trunk. Then the muscles of thoracic and shoulder that acting on scapula and view. We have many of those, but here we are not interested on that yet. We'll talk about next week. You just need to know the sternocleidomastoid. Then the muscles of respiration. We have muscles, the superficial muscles, which are external intercostals, and internal muscles, which are internal intercostals. Which, okay, the external is just shows the direction. One is going downward, the other one is going upward. Okay. So this one is again muscles of the abdominal wall, helping in flexing your abdomen, turning your abdomen, moving your abdomen. Rectus abdominis, the straight one. Okay. Then we have internal oblique and external oblique. So external oblique goes in this direction, internal oblique goes in this direction. So you have 3 layers. External oblique is the outer layer. Underneath we have internal oblique. Underneath we have transverse abdominis, which is kind of straight. Okay. Together, the internal oblique and external oblique help you as in twisting your abdomen, so you can move it around. Now I'm going to share you the actual model pictures. This is just an introduction. So I'm just going to show you, give me a second. One second, guys. Give me like 2 minutes. I want to open up something else too. Okay. Let me close this one. Can you see what I'm sharing? The muscle model? Okay.
Yes.
And it's also posted in your canvas. So again, we're talking about facial and head muscles. So these ones are basically the frontal belly, which is epicranius. You can call it as a frontalis too. Then we have masseter. This one's is a masseter, which is achieving muscle. Muscle of neck is the sternocleidomastoid. Then muscle of the eye is known as Orbicularis oculi. Lip muscles are known as Orbicularis oris. Okay, I'm just going over the muscles which we need to know. Again, this is another image. Orbicularis oculi, which is basically the muscles of the eye that helps in movement of eye or closing your lips. Orbicularis oris, it puckers your lips. Then you have buccinator, which I'll show you in the next one. You should have buccinator here. Yeah. Buccinator muscle, which is beneath the masseter, compresses cheek and is also used for chewing. It's basically mastication or chewing muscles. Okay. So again, need to know the orbicularis oculi, orbicularis oris. Okay. Then we have platysmia, which is like a scarf. If you wear a scarf, that's how this platysmia look. Any time you see wrinkles on the neck or tensors on the neck, that is caused by platysmia. Okay. So again, the same thing, frontal belly or frontalis, okay. Orbicularis oculi, this entire thing, can't see the red ones. Orbicularis oris, which is your lip muscles. Okay. Then masseter, the muscles that run parallelly are masseter. Underneath the masseter, you have lines that going underneath it, which is buccinator. Okay. Those are the muscles we need to know. So we need to know orbicularis oculi, orbicularis oris, of course, frontal belly, masseter, buccinator. Temporalis, you can't see it here. It should be somewhere here. Okay. And sternocleidomastoid is this one. Platysmia is in the front, which I just showed you. This one is platysmia. It's like a scarf. Okay. And as it tenses the skin of the neck. So just a repetition from different models so that you will have a good idea how it looks like. So frontalis, temporalis, orbicularis oculi, orbicularis oris. This one is buccinator. The ones which you run this way, the thick ones, which run this way, are masseter. Okay. Then we have this side muscle that help in flexing your neck. It can basically act alone by tilting the head on its side. Because of sternocleiomastite, you can tilt the head to its side. Sometimes it also works together with other muscles for flexing the neck and also raising the sternum. Okay. So beneath the sternocleiomastite, we have, sorry, so this is beneath it, we have splenius capitatis. Together, they kind of move the head. Again, you'll be tested on similar models. Same thing. Again, I know it's a lot of repetition, but it will help. Epicranius, Orbicularis oculi, Orbicularis oris, temporalis, buccinator, and sternocleium. Behind, you have splenius capitatis. Then we, 1 second. Give me a second. So this one is basically if you take a layer of the muscles away, then you can see epicranius, orbicularis oculi. This is the typo, orbicularis oris, sternocleiomastite. Same thing here, not going to go over it. Same thing here, just a different model here. Masseter, okay. SCM is nothing but sternocleiomastite. Okay. Beneath the sternocleiomastite, near the posterior portion of neck, you have splenius capitatis. Then you have levator scapula. So sternocleiomastite is there. Beneath it, you have levator scapula. Beneath that, you have splenius capitatis. All of them are responsible for moving your head from one angle to another angle. So again, this basically tells you how the splenius capitatis looks like. Splenius capitatis, then this one is levator scapula, and before that you have sternocleiomastite. Then there's an occipital belly too, which is occipitalis, which we'll talk about next week, helping in moving your occipital bones. Okay. So these are muscles of the vertebral column or muscles of the trunk. When you're talking about vertebral column, let's say, let me show, I think I have it here. Okay, here. So these parallel ones are rectus abdominis. They help in moving or flexing your abdomen in different directions. Then this one is internal oblique and external oblique. So both internal oblique and external oblique help in turning your muscles. Then let's see, transverse abdominis, as I showed you in the before, should have it here. When you go underneath, you will see transverse abdomen. So again, as I said, you'll have rectus abdominis. Rectus abdominis is a superficial layer, external oblique is a superficial layer. If you peel the superficial layer of external oblique, you will get internal oblique. You peel the internal oblique, you will get transverse abdominis. This is basically having a different directions. Then the same thing, external oblique. So internal, these are the external oblique, internal oblique, rectus abdominis. Then we also have intercostals, external intercostals and internal intercostals. This is basically splenius capitatis. You need to know most of them, but here I'm just labeling only the things we need to know this week. In the end, we will be knowing all of this. Okay. By the time
excuse me, I have a quick question. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, go ahead.
For the next test, are we going to have to label like we did last time?
Yes, everything is about labeling, but you also need to know the function. You also need to know the origin and insertion.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. The same way, but of course I need to go back and grade it.
And can I ask a question regarding the lab exam as well?
Yes,
that's going to be in 2 weeks' time, is that right?
2 or 3, let me check, okay? Because we still have another next week and the next week. I still have 2 more weeks of labs.
Okay.
Okay, and I'll let you know. Okay. So it's 2 weeks after, I think, your lecture exam, but I'll let you know by next week. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Because I can't see anyone, so I'm just trying to see the response. Okay. So stenogliomastoid, again, this is the lateral ones. Okay. The straight ones are rectans abdominis. Then you have internal oblique and external oblique. So then here, there's an erector spina group. This erector spina group, which is, you don't have to know the different erector spina group. This will include iliocostalis, longissimus spinalis. This is responsible for moving your vertebral column, the spinal group. How do they look like? They look like here. This is the best model I can get. They look like this. Underneath, so underneath your skin, underneath all the other muscles, which is the deepest muscles, which is the erector spina group, and they're responsible for moving your cervical spine. They're responsible for moving your back. Okay. So what are these? These are group of long muscles, as I showed you in the before ones, and extend vertically. So long muscles, they extend vertically all the way here in a different orientation. And what do? They basically, as the name suggests, they're used to move the vertebral column, basically the spinal column, they're used to move that. So then, here, I think this is. So far, what did we go over? Temporalis. This one is splenus capitatis. Okay. This one is erector spina group. Okay. So we went over muscles of the facial expression, which is Orbicularis oculi, oris, platysmia, bicinator, chewing, Masseter, temporalis, platysmia, scalp, frontal belly, occipital belly, which this one, occipitalis, which I forgot to mention. 1 second, go back. This one, epicranius, or this occipital belly. Then we talked about head and neck, stenogliomastoid, which is a side muscle. Behind it, you have a splenus capitatis. Muscles of vertebral column, which is rectus abdominis, external oblique, internal oblique, and transverse. Including this, we also talked about erector spina group, which are nothing, a group of muscles that extend laterally all the way in the back near your vertebral column, help in moving your vertebral column. Then you have diaphragm, which you know that are involved in this. And I should have one more. Just looking. External intercostals and internal intercostals. I showed you in the previous slides, but let me show you if I can find it here. Give me a second. I think I should have one here. Give me a moment. Here. This one's, when they're pointed, internal intercostals, external intercostals. Okay. So basically, external, they're present on the outside, internal, they're present on the inside. The images used in the lab will be very similar, for the lab exam will be very similar, which I shared, with maybe a slight color difference. And I also posted another one, PowerPoint, with no labeling, and you can label it yourself. Okay. Yes, Lily, you can go. Okay. And I just saw the chat. Okay, that's it, guys, for today. But write down in your chat box before I get disconnected. Okay, and then I will post the lecture. It's just processing. Give me some time and I'll post the lecture by tonight after editing. Lily, you can go. Who's asking?
Okay, thank you, Professor.
Yes.
I have a question. Are you gonna have I have a question about the study guide.
Okay.
It was the one where it said know the diagram of the different strata and what cells are found. Are you talking about like the keratinocytes, melanocytes?
Let me check which question is it. I think I'm talking about stratum corneum, stratum lucidium, stratum germinatum. I think, but let me check the question. Okay.
Okay.
Give me a second. Let me open up the study guide. Do you remember which question?